Hello again and welcome back, I'll be Adam, and today we're going to be taking a little look at Ridge Racer Type 4, because this just re-released on the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and I liked this game back in the day. I liked it a lot, actually. I bought it many times. I think I bought a copy for Christmas, and then someone else bought me another copy, not realising I already had it, and then I played that until it got scratched, so I bought myself another copy. Then I lost that when I moved, so I bought another copy, and then that copy turned out to be scratched on other music work, so I bought another copy. Then it released on the PlayStation 3 network, so I bought that, and then it's released again. So I've owned this game multiple times, but I think this is the first time it's had any quality of life upgrades or anything worth talking about, so I thought, since I'm playing it again anyway, might as well make a video and let you know if it's worth your time and or money. This is the main menu. There's not much to go over here, so I'll just skip through it quite quickly. There's the Grand Prix, which is the meat and potatoes of the game, which we'll get to. That's what we're going to be playing some of today. Time attack is self-explanatory. It's just a time attack mode. Garage is where cars you unlock get put, or you can select what cars go in your garage out of all the cars that you unlock, and then you can choose to use them in time attack. And also for the Extra Trials. Extra Trials is a mode that unlocks after you finish the Grand Prix once, and it makes it so that you can unlock some ridiculous over-the-top concept cars. Some of them don't even technically work on these tracks. Like, they just don't control well, but they're over the top and silly, and they're there for a laugh. What else we got here? We got garage. We've been through garage. Records. It's where your records are stayed. It's where you keep your toppest of scores. Save and load. Options. It has quite extensive options actually for a game of this time, so we'll have a little look at those. So you got your controller setup, which I think there's like 5 or 6 presets. None of them are modern controls, so you don't really need to change them. The controller setup is also a little weird, and you can't change anything that would matter. So, for example, this game's from Japan, and Japan, back in the day, used to have a different default layout. So action was an X like it is in the West. In fact, in the West at the time, I think in Europe, X was action and triangle was cancel or back, whereas now it's X is action and circle's cancel or back. But Japanese games used to be circle was action and X was cancel and back, so literally the flip reverse to what we have now. So your muscle memory is going to get a little messed up sometimes when playing this, but just be aware, circle forward, X backwards. And a music player, which is really cute, and all it is like you just get to select what tracks to listen to, and you listen to them whilst it plays some pre-recorded footage of car going round track from like a cinematic took the scenic route, but I got there in like a cinematic mode, which is nice, and the music in this game is incredible, so that's I put that on just to chill out sometimes. Well, I used to, not so much anymore, because you can probably just listen to it all on YouTube, to be fair. But anyway, so there's a little music player which is adorable. So this is the mode that's intended to be played the most, and it's the Grand Prix mode. The first thing you have to do is choose for one of 4 teams, each one representing a difficulty. The way difficulty seems to be handled in this game, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've played it a few times now, and I don't know, maybe I was just picking the wrong cars, but it seems to be not more difficult based on the opponent's ability, but they just make the cars harder to turn. So it's kind of a bullshit difficulty, but it's all manageable. Expert is extremely hard though. Like, I could never do this back in the day, and I can only do this now due to some of the mod cons I said they added, which I'll talk about when we get into a race. For the sake of this video, I'm going to do either easy or normal, just so that I'm not having to think too hard, because if I'm playing on expert or hard and I'm really focusing, I'm not going to be able to talk. I won't be able to talk. A lot of people pre-record the footage and then just talk scripts over the top of it. I tried to do that for this very video yesterday. Turns out I'm rubbish at it. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun for me. I like to react to what's happening at the time, so we won't be doing that. So I might just go with the I'll go with normal. Normal wasn't too hard, he said regrettably. Each team also has its own story. They're all kind of interconnected, and they're all very, I don't know if you've seen the movie Ski School, but it's a lot like that, or very 90s daytime TV drama. It's cheese, but it's brilliant, but it's awful, but it's great, but it's bad. I'll skip through this and skip over this, because even though this came out in 1998, I think I don't want to spoil the story, since this version of the game's new, and it might be the first time you've played it. Probably not, and if you're watching this, you've probably played it before or are thinking about getting this version of it. Most people will be nostalgia buying, I assume, but I just don't like to be the one, so I would usually say spoiler warning. Also, we don't need to go through it bit by bit. That's not what this video is about. This video is about, is the game any good? And this adds to it for sure. Like, this definitely adds to the charm, but it's not why we're here. The next thing you have to do is choose a car manufacturer. So 2 of them are drift and 2 of them are grip. The difference between grip and drift are night and day. Grip is like normal mode. It's as you would expect. The car sticks to the road. You can make it twist slightly by performing like the input you would do to make your car drift, but you can't make it drift. Drift, a lot harder. Weirder to control? Sure, but it is more fun. When you get it right, it's a lot fun. And strangely, the cars seem to go much faster sideways than they do in a straight line. Don't know how that physics, but it is make for good fun. I are England good. I am going to make things difficult for myself and pick a drift car, because I think that will make for the better talkings. Nope. I am going to make things harder for myself and pick a drift car, because I think that will make for a better video and it gives me more to talk about. For sure, it also makes it way harder to play and talk because you have to think more about what you're doing. Pat your head, rub your belly kind of scenario, but I'll do my best. So this is the Grand Prix. It's split up into 8 races. You do 2, you get a new car. You do 2, you get a new car. You do 3, you get a new car, and then you do 1. Depending on what position you come in the earlier races, especially because in the first 2 you can be thirds. Thirds are passing grade. In the second heat, second is, and in the final heat you have to get first all the way. But depending on what combination you get, third and second in those first, third and second in those first 2 heats, will change what kind of cars you unlock, which means you can play through this multiple times, and I'll get back to that because it becomes fucking ridiculous. At the very start of the game, you get to choose what music you want as well. It will have a preset one for each track, but you can just choose whether you want it to be random or just pick your favourite. If you have a favourite one, just play it over and over and over again. It's up to you. And we're off. X is go. For some reason, it always defaults you. There's only 2 views, this and this. It always defaults you to this one, like the on the bonnet view, or on the front of the car view, but you can change it to that, but it always defaults back to this. So at the start of every race, if you prefer sort of third person, you have to select that. Tiny annoyance, not a big deal, not a big deal. And we're off, and look how pretty this game looks. This looked good at the time and it still looks good today. I know that's weird to say, but it has a certain style all of its own, and it makes it a little bit ageless because it fits its own graphics, I say. And we're drifting. See, I do drift. See, I do drift well. Didn't do drift well. Tap the wall. Pretend you didn't see that bit. Planes are doing barrel rolls. Everything's going on. The lighting as well. Oh my god, the lighting. Like, it's well ahead of its. I've bollocksed it. I've bollocksed it right up, and now I get to show you some of the new features. So if I press start, we have rewind. Everybody likes a rewind. You don't have to use this, and some people consider it cheating, but when you get to like the expert level, honestly, fuck the expert level, and you can rewind immediately, especially if there's a specific corner you're struggling with. You can rewind immediately and just practice that corner over and over and over until you get it. So it's great for learning without having to go all the way around the track again or keep starting the race over and over. Also, you could just use it to straight cheat that, but that's entirely up to you. So yeah, you can rewind if you done gone fucked up like I just did. There's also the load and save, so you can load and save at any time you want. You don't just have to use the in-game one. So you've got your visual presets, so like it says retro classic and modern. Honestly, it just seems to be a filter. Like, I don't know what that changes. The colours change slightly, but I've noticed no benefit. So I'm changing it. Like, retro classic doesn't look any more like it used to me than default does. And modern just seems to make it a bit grey and dark. None of them seem to benefit at all. So if anyone actually knows what the point in those is, are they just filters or do they do more than that? Let me know. But I think default's fine. It's crisper, it's clearer, it looks the best. I don't know why I'd use any of the others, personally, but it's there. Then you've got your video settings, so you can change your aspect ratios. You can get perfectly square pixel for perfect proportions, but I prefer the old the original 16:9. You can change it 16:10, so it just fills a bit more of the screen out. You can have it 1:1, so if you want to play it like that, for fuck knows why you would want to, but you can. You also have wide zoom, which a lot of people don't like because it stretches the image and makes it look a bit disproportioned and odd, but I like using it. I'm not using it today because I know how much it upsets people, and I've got quite used to playing in the old 16:9, but when I play games on my 60 gig PS3, the backwards compatible, the PS2 games, I just like to use all of the telly. Like, I've got all of that real estate. It feels like it's been wasted at the side, so I put the zoom on. I've been playing Armored Core recently, Ninebreaker. Nope, that's not true. Last Raven. And I've had it on stretch the whole time, and you just get used to it. Like, it looks a bit weird at first, but after a while, it becomes the norm, and it's no big deal. But I know some people fucking hate it, so I'll be staying with 16:9 for today. Controls, it just tells you what the newer controls are. So the options button, what used to be the start button, is so you can open this menu, and to press original start and select buttons, it's the right side and left side of the touchpad. You can also change region. I don't know why you would. The only difference I know between the regions is American NTSC was 60 Hz and European PAL was 50 Hz. Now 60 Hz is objectively better than 50 Hz, so why you'd ever want to play it in 50 Hz, I don't know, and I assume that's what that changes. It doesn't actually say, but I assume that's what that changes. So if you want real authenticity, I guess that's why you would have that there, but personally, don't just leave it on 60. 60, always better. And that's that. So I'm going to rewind to when I wasn't being a pillock. Boop, and there we go. You just carry on from where, or before, we doth gone fucked up. It's weird using drift on some of the earlier cars. Like, it doesn't always seem to activate when you expect it to or when you think it should. The slower the car, the harder it seems to be. And later on with some of the faster cars, it actually works way better. And you make less mistakes even though you're going so much faster. I love that this game has its own theme tune. And not only does it have its own theme tune, it's bloody good. Like, it's a good track. I will listen to it now. Just put it on my MP3 player. What year is this? Oh, another thing that's changed slightly from the old games is when you bump into people, I'll do it now, I'll hit him up the arse. Wibble, 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 wibble. It's still always better to hit brakes, like use brakes a lot, than it is to hit another car from the back or the wall. In the old Ridge Racer games, it used to be very punishing. Like, if you hit the back of another car or wall, that was just game over, especially on some of the higher levels. On this, it's not as punishing, but it is still the worst thing you can do. It's always better to overbrake than it is hit the wall, and I just did both. So, you know, not good at this game. Never said I was good at this game. Had it a long time, played it a lot, not ever got any better at it, it would bloody seem. That's probably because I've been spoiled by the use of the rewind button. I've tried not to use it much, but not gonna lie, on expert mode I used it a heck of a lot, like a heck of a lot. I'm hitting walls all over the shop here. I need to pay more attention. We're still winning though. So normal mode, it's not that hard. Difficulty scales alright, but quickly. Like, hard is fair. Hard is what you'd expect from a hard mode. Normal is probably a little bit easy. Actual easy mode is just a cake mode. A cake mode? Yeah, that's the saying. I don't know how you'd lose. You'd have to just not press go, and then words happening hard. Forgot what saying, because turning corner whilst drift button, timing important. And that's game. Okay, I've paused it here because this is one of my favourite tracks, and not because the track's particularly good compared to some of the others. It's because the announcer, for whatever reason, he starts off low when he's doing the announcement and then can't get any lower for the second word. And it's I don't know why they use this take. I don't know why they use this take, but it makes me laugh every time. I might sound like I'm talking nonsense, but you know what I mean when you hear it. And I'll try and turn the volume up for it in the edit, because it just gets me every time.
Real Racing Roots 99 in Wonder Hill. Wonder Hill.
Of all the takes, surely they didn't make him do it just once. Somebody somewhere either used the wrong one or went, that's pretty funny actually, I'm going to stick that in there and hope nobody notices. The tracks themselves, there are only 8, and you do get reverse variants of them, so you could say there's twice as many, but really there's only 8. And some of them do intersect, so they use similar sections, but they don't ever feel like cheap. It never feels like, over-familiar, like each track is distinct. They've all got their own personality, which is, holy shit balls, I launched him into space. It's all taking place at different times of day. So there'll be some, like here, I think is this evening or morning? It's dusk or dawn, so the lighting's completely different, which is lovely. And then you have nighttime tracks and some in the morning, so it helps them take on their own character. You never feel like you're playing the same track over and over and over again, even though you definitely are, because 8 tracks isn't a lot of tracks, but what's here? All really well done. I like all of them. A lot, in fact. Apart from that corner can go fuck itself with a pointy stick. That's how you do a corner. But you notice I was completely silent before then, because I can't talk and do it at the same time. But when I'm not talking bollocks to make a video, then you can sort of see how the corners are supposed to be done, or at least you can in that one specific instance where I didn't bollocks it up, but I bollocks this one up, did I? I didn't hit the wall. You all saw. Gets one corner right. Oh no, you all saw that as well. Yeah, never mind. Instantly smug, instantly rectified. The draw distances in this game were pretty impressive as well for the time. Like, the ones before this, its predecessors, a lot more popping. You get a little bit, but you have to be looking for it, and usually you don't have time to because you're concentrating far too much on what you're doing. But you can see enough of the track ahead of you that it's never a problem. It's just a really pretty game. Like, I still think it holds up, and maybe that's all my nostalgia goggles on, but I think it does. I think it does, and I think I'd like to see these tracks in a modern game. Oh, also, I forgot to mention, none of the car brands, none of the car makes, none of them are real. They're all made up, every one of them. Which I prefer. Like, I don't need that level of realism in my arcade racer, and I don't need companies shelling out however many millions of pounds they probably have to shell out to use the likenesses of real world cars. I don't care enough about that. Like, save your money, put it back into development, make up your own cars and just make a better game. Or just keep the money for yourself, I don't know. But it's absolutely not something I prioritise. In like a sim game, I get it. But in stuff like this, nah, just make crazy shit up and have fun with it. You might as well. I like the replays, especially at night time. The little trail, the brake light sleeve as you're going around corners. When this game came out when I was a kid, that blew my mind. I thought it was fucking amazing. I'd not seen anything like that before, and you didn't really see it used to any great effect again until like Need for Speed Underground. I don't think. Blah blah blah, skip story, don't want to ruin that for anyone. And do you want to save your current Grand Prix? So after you've done each individual section, you can save in the game, which is nice. I'm not going to bother because I'll just use this one. No, I won't, because, oh, that's another thing. So you get used to, in the game, circle being forwards and X being back, but in this menu, it's normal control, so X is forwards and circle's back. So you're immediately double fucked. I need to, yeah, load and save. We will save a new save, and then we don't have to worry about... It's way quicker as well, it's way quicker than using the in-game save, so little time saver, little time saving tip, little pro tip. Oh, you also get a new car! So yeah, once you've done each individual section, I think I mentioned before, but this is it, and you get different cars depending on how well you do. They're just better. But every team gets better cars, so it's not like you're going to get to dominate because your car is best. It's more likely it just gets faster and the game gets more fun to play and more competitive. Here's one of the nighttime tracks I was talking about. This is at an airport, very cool. I think this was one of my favourite tracks when I was a kid. Just visually. I think the actual track itself is nothing to write home about, but the presentation is nice. You'll notice we don't all start at the same time. You don't really see more than one opponent at once, and I think that's due to the graphical because this game was pushing the PlayStation 1. I think it's due to the graphical limitations. So instead of ooh, that would have been good, but it wasn't because I touched it right at the end, but it was almost good and I had to stop talking. Now I've completely lost my train of thought. Yeah, so the cars opponents, what? Yes, so you only, due to the graphic limitations of the time, I think you only pass the cars, so you can only race cars one at a time. Because I tried to, if you try and stop them as well, if you try and get in their way, they will just rubber band around you and fuck off into space. So the game doesn't want more than a few cars on the screen at the same time, and I think that's why you're the only car on the map as well. Because it can't tell you where the other ones are, because it doesn't know, or it would be a lie. So, you pass these cars one at a time, and with varying degrees of difficulty. The car in first place being the best driver and the hardest one to beat, or the fastest one. So you want to get to him as quickly as possible, or her, as quickly as possible, so you've got time to get to the finish line in front of them. That's the goal. It's just to get through them as fast as you can, which does mean you don't get like car pile-ups, or you get that mad dash right at the end where everyone's stuck in a crowd and you're trying to break free. It loses some of the drama, but it does give it more of a movie feel, which I think is what the game was going for anyway, where you're taking on these people one at a time and it's always a little bit dramatic. I don't dislike it, I'm just very aware that it would be better if you could have maybe 2 or 3, you know, so you could get a bit of a scrap going on instead of it always just being one. But at least when it's just one, you don't have to worry too much about the AI, because the AI always follows the, oh, did I not crash that? The AI always follows a pretty exact racing line, and it doesn't seem to really react to you. Unless they're behind you, they will pull around you, but that's it as far as I can tell. And they do not care where you are. They don't get out of your way. They don't care if you're going to crash into them. They are doing their own thing. So the AI is non-existent. But again, that might have been due to the fact that there's just only so much the system could be expected to handle at the time to get a game sounding, looking this good and running this well. Oof, I say oof, they did a thing. And it still holds up, it's still fun. The cars are fun to control. Like, some of these older games, you start playing them, they just feel laggy and bad, there's input delay, and they have weird quirks, so you're never quite sure where you stand with the controls, for example, but they're all done really well in here. You usually know exactly what's going to happen when you press a button. Not always. I thought I'd drift for longer then, but I didn't. But I know that was my fault, so I can't exactly blame the game for it. Sometimes I will, but not today, because you could all see, so what's the point in lying? How the actual fuck did I manage to pull that back? I got first, but I don't feel like I deserved it. I don't know if the mic's going to pick up the rain. If it does, I apologise. I live in a caravan, and it's got a tin roof, and when it chucks it down, it's very loud. It can be very loud, and I'm very aware that the mic will probably pick that up, and it's starting to piss it down right now. So if that gets a bit loud in the background or a bit distorty, it's nothing's wrong with the mic or the audio setup. It's just where I live. The other minor improvement that's been made for this game is an obvious one. The loading times way better than they used to be, or at least way better than they used to be on my version of the game, because my PlayStation used to struggle to load it. Like, it made some noise. Sometimes it would load fairly fast, and other times it would sound like it was doing some sort of construction work, and then it would eventually load. So maybe I just had a bad PlayStation, or I always got unlucky and had bad copies, but this version specifically seems to load way faster, which is welcome, because it could take forever. That was nice. Did you see that? I like that. That felt good. It feels more... This is what I'll say about the drift cars. They are harder to drive and a little more unpredictable, but when things go right, it is infinitely more satisfying. Like that. That was nice. That's quite a difficult corner, and I think I nailed it. Could have been smoother, but we did alright. All the car companies as well, you'll notice, are named after old arcade Namco products or IPs, which is just cute. The relaxing music really helps. Sometimes you get some up-tempo music and it can make all this quite stressful, but you get a nice relaxing track and it's just takes all the stress out of it until you crash into the back of some fuck nugget that's in your way like that. To that point, all the stress just melts away. Seagulls! Did you see the seagulls? There's lots of stuff going on in the background. You don't always have time to look at it, but I like that they bothered. It just makes it seem more real, the world more realised and more alive, which, again, they didn't have to do. This game was already great, but it's that little attention to detail just pips it over the edge for me. Whee! That's the thing drivers say, right? Seriously, oh, you'll notice the numbers flashing in the corner now. That means I'm in a qualifying position. That just lets you know, so you don't have to worry so much. Ooh, that was good. That was good. You all saw? Cocky again. Gets one corner right, immediately gets cocky. Waiting for this next corner, because this next corner's a bitch. Not this one, but this one. If I can get around here, I'll be cocky. Almost. Almost. I don't know why I went cockney. Fucking almost. Ooh, that would have took the paint off. So satisfying when you get it right. Like, it's just something about this game. Like, I know other games scratch a similar itch, but there's just something about this one. And maybe it's because I know the tracks, maybe it's because I've got the nostalgia, but I'd be interested to see if anyone will play this, and comment below if you do, who hasn't played this or didn't play this back in the day. If they give this a solid chance, like give it a honest to God go and get through the Grand Prix a few times and get used to the tracks and the controls, let me know what you think, because I'd love to see a modern perspective on a game that I've got, you know, a biased opinion of. I like to be as objective as I can, but it's difficult when you grow up playing these games, because you're already predetermined to think of them as fun. Someone else might play this and be like, this is the beigest, most boringest, most stupidest and dullest thing I've ever had to endure, and I hate you for suggesting it to me, you bastard, you fucking bastard. Anyway, you've got a new car, and we got all first place. So I think if you get all first, the cars it gives you at the end are the fastest versions of the cars you can get for that team, and so, which is a weird one, because it means the better you do, the better you're going to be. Whereas if you're struggling a little bit, it gives you a shitter car. If it sees you having difficulty, it makes the game more difficult, which seems like a bit of a fuck you, but also I understand it. Like, I get the logic behind it, but as a gameplay mechanic, not entirely fair. That was good. I like that. I like that a lot. So you'll notice this section was in one of the earlier tracks. Whoops! Was in one of the earlier tracks, but only that small bit. So again, doesn't feel overused. The cars themselves. What was I going to say? Yes. So the tracks that you play, there are 8 separate tracks, and there are 8 tracks in the Grand Prix. So you get to do one of them. The only downside to this, you get to do one of each. The only downside to that is that it means you always only get to use the faster cars in the later stages, so you don't get to use them on the other tracks. Obviously you can in time trial mode, it just means in Grand Prix you don't get to use the faster cars earlier on, or the slower cars on some of the more complicated later tracks. It's a bit of a shame, but because of how the format is in the game, and I think it needed to be that way, I get why they did it. So this is a Tier 3 car, and Tier 3 cars specifically seem to handle the best around these tracks. I feel like the game's tracks were designed around this level of car mostly, because some of the earlier cars, the slower cars, struggle a little bit to get into gear to get around the corners, and some of the later ones will just pinball off every wall, especially some of the ridiculous vehicles you unlock, the concept ones. So These are my favourite. If I'm playing in time trial mode, I try and set my best times with these. Obviously, you can do it faster with the faster cars, but these are just the funnest to drive, in my opinion. Disclaimer. Oh, I did it. Did I win? I wasn't paying any attention. I did! Go me! Oh, see? I do better when I don't try and do the thing I'm supposed to be doing, when I just zone out. And you say you get into a zen-like state sometime, but I wasn't, because I was talking absolute bollocks and thinking about other things. That was... See? Your muscle memory. Your brain knows what to do even if you don't. Me trying to overcorrect and play and think about it, you don't need to. Your hands have got this. Just tune out. Just tune out, listen to some music, talk some shit, maybe make a YouTube video while you're doing it. This right here, this is my favourite track. That's all I'm going to say. I don't really have anything else to add. I just wanted to get at least this far so I could show you this track. So I think it's not only one of the best to drive around, and it's got some crazy jump in it, it's also just one of the best looking. It reuses sections from the airport. I over-revved. This was the one that I saw when I first played it and was just like, hoo-wee. Like, I'd never seen anything like this on the PlayStation 1. It looks just mind-blowing, and I still think it looks good now. I know I said that before, and I say that about most of the tracks, but this one specifically is by far one of the prettiest. And the lighting is done so well. I don't know how they did it. I just don't know how they did it on what they had. Whoopsie poops. With what they had to work with, it is quite incredible. I've not unlocked that car yet. That little roller skate. I kind of want it. This is the section I'm talking about when you get to the top of here. The first time you come around this corner, and I was like, oh, where's the road gone? There it is. Whew. You don't really get that anymore. Do you remember when you were younger and you play a game and something like that would happen? It would take the stomach out from under you. That was that section. That did that to me when I was a kid. Every time, like, I would get nervous about like coming up to that. Not because I thought I was going to bollocks it up, but because I knew the drop was going to make me go, ugh. And now you only really get that sensation from something like VR. It's weird how much you get your sea legs or your game legs. Music's still on point. Honestly, the music in this game, it doesn't ever miss a beat. It fits perfectly, and you can sort of, you can put any track on you want on any racetrack, and it's entirely up to you what order you listen to them in, which is a nice function. But I think when they paired the tracks with the tracks, I'm saying the word tracks too many times, when they paired the music tracks with the race tracks, is what I'm trying to say, they knew what they were doing. So I don't change them. I think they got it right the first time. They hit the nail on the head. You don't know better than those people who made the game, so don't fuck with it. I say a lot. I've got to stop saying that. Say. I think the cars handle best on normal mode as well. Whoops, little bump. When you're on normal mode as well, compared to the other modes, like easy is just pointless, and hard and expert, it starts to feel like a little bit of a chore. Like, you start having to brake a lot and drift just to get around the corners because it makes turning so hard, whereas the competition, you can see, visibly doesn't have to do that. So you're already on the back foot. I don't know if it makes the enemy actually better, the competition actually better, actually faster, whether it just makes your car so much worse that's the only place the difficulty lies, but I think it's probably a little bit of both. Probably a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, and we've got another fast. So this is the... Oh, fucking hell, that was a tough corner. This is the second to last. This has gone wrong. Helicopter. What was I saying? Oh yeah, this is the last track. I'm going to skip through this pretty quick, purely because I want to get to talk about the Stage 4 cars and the very final race, and I don't really have anything else to add until I get to there. So, yes, we'll just skip to the end, where I presumably get first. Oh, I might leave that in though, because that was an absolute slick corner. And I did a little jump over him. Yeah, definitely use that. Clip that. Oh, and a nice another corner. But at least I didn't bollocks it up on the corner straight after the corner I was proud of, like I've done every other time so far. Bollocks. I know he's right behind me. I can hear his engine. Doesn't matter, we got the win. And that's all that's important at the end of the day. And these are the Tier 4 cars, so right before the final race, you get brand new, the fastest car you can possibly get, especially if you've got all first unlocked, which is great, but the downside to this is you get it for one race. Like, you spent all this time unlocking it, and I mean, the other races where you only get to use them for 2 or 3 aren't really long enough. Like, you just get used to a car, and it's off to the next one. I get why they've done it like this, because of how you unlock cars. This feels a lot more like a fighting game. It feels a bit like Tekken 3, where there's little bits of individual character story, and then you fly through the arcade mode, and then at the end you unlock the things. So I understand that they want you to repeat through it quite a lot, So they don't want it to be too long because it would become so tedious, but yet somehow they managed to make it tedious anyway. So I've been pretty positive about this game up to this point. These are my only gripes. The last stage only being one stage, also the last stage itself just being like kind of a circle. And there it is. You see what I mean? So it's just not very interesting. It's like every old arcade game first stage. You know, you used to have like beginner, expert, hard, and the tracks got progressively more complicated. This looks like what should have been the first fucking stage, not the last one. I kind of get what they were getting at, but anyway, that's the first of the, you know, I've been very positive about this game so far, but I do have a few gripes with it, that being one of them. The other being that in order to unlock all the cars in this game, there are 321 cars, by the way, you have to do the Grand Prix mode over and over and over, because you have to do every possible combination of car manufacturer with team. Not only that, but depending on whether you get first and second and third in the earlier races, that will also change what car you get. So you'll get different ones depending on that, and that adds a whole other plethora of, you know, you have to intentionally not do so well in some of them to get all the different cars. And then you've got the extra trials mode, which is great because it adds the insane cars, but you've got to beat them. So it's a lot. I think I worked it out, and I could be wrong here because I'm not good at mathematical, but I think you would have to do the Grand Prix mode 74 times to unlock every car, which is just, it's not worth it. Why I made this video is this game worth buying today? Not taking into account that it's old, not with nostalgia goggles on, does it stand on its own with the new mod cons and as the game that it already was? Is it worth getting? Because I think it's $7.99 on the PlayStation Network, or if you've got the premium, it's free. Well, it's not free, you're paying for a subscription, but it's at no extra cost. But let's face it, if you've got that subscription, then it's probably already for the retro games, because the streamed PS3 games aren't great. So would I suggest buying it? Yes, but how I would suggest playing it is don't go for a completionist run. Like, just don't waste your time. Go through the Grand Prix mode a few times. Oh, didn't mean to drift there. Go through the Grand Prix mode a few times, unlock some of your favourite cars, maybe with your favourite teams, and do some of the extra trials and unlock some of the crazy cars. You know, you get 10, 15, if you're really into it, 20 hours of gameplay out of it. That's enough. Don't punish yourself by trying to do everything you possibly can, because the way it's paced out, it'll sap the joy of it by the end. Like, it's just absolutely not worth it. It's a bit like when you're going for platinum trophies, and sometimes it's fun. It's fun because the trophies make you go for things or do things that you wouldn't have usually done in the game itself, but then other times they make you do things to such repetition, and it just kills it. It saps the fun out of a game you otherwise loved, and it's a little bit like that. So if you're a completionist, I'd say don't waste your time. But if you want to just have a good time with a really good arcade racer and enjoy all the cheesy storylines and unlock some insane cars and drive around some fucking incredible looking tracks, definitely get this. Absolutely get this. Like, this is 100% worth every single penny. Let's see if I can pull this out the bag, even though I was talking too much early on and I drove into a wall almost immediately. Oh, you see what I just did there? Because I was going to do a quick rewind. I was going to do a sneaky rewind and edit it out so nobody knew that I fucked up again. But that is a really easy mistake to make. Just if you press the start button to open up the rewind menu, and you're holding the left analog stick in any sort of downwards direction, any angle, anything apart from like left, right, or straight up, it will click to load and save. And if you're clicking away because you just want to rewind quick and you know what you're doing, you've already skipped back and you hit that, you'll just load up your old save. And I've only done it once where I actually accidentally loaded it because I was just tapping away and absentmindedly not looking at what I was doing. But just be mindful of that. If you're using that function a lot and you're sort of zoning out a little bit, there's a very good chance you'll accidentally load an old save when you just want to rewind. You see what I mean about this track? It's just a lot of sweeping corners and not a lot going on, and you don't really have to hit the brake that much, and there's no point drifting. If you're using a drift car, it's a death sentence. It's the one track where they're absolutely slower, because the second you put it into a drift, some fucker will overtake you. Should have probably done it on that corner. Nope, never mind, got around it. See, you don't need it. You just don't. There's nothing to it. It's just a lot of turning very slowly around a very large track. It is fun showing off the speeds that these cars could do, but you never really get a sense of that speed because of how wide and long the sections of track are. No, it takes it away from it. I think it was a swing and a miss. A swing and a miss, and it's a bit of a downer to end it on, but that's just my opinion. I've not heard many people complaining about this, so I'm sure some people absolutely bloody love it. Oh, we've done it. We're in first, and we've still got a lap to go, so that's fine. Oh, and fireworks. You get fireworks on the last lap. That's a nice little touch. You've just been bitching about this track for so long. It's nice to add on positive, you know? End on a high, as it were. And that's game. So that's all of the GP mode, without any story spoilers, and you get to see the meat and potatoes of the game. That's what you're getting yourself in for. Again, I already said it because I've been babbling a lot and I've lost what order I've talked about things and what things I've already spoken about. That's the downside to not liking using scripts, is you just sort of rabbiting away and hoping for the best. But you do get to play the game at the same time, and that's fun, and you get to see me having fun with it or not having fun with it, depending on what I'm reviewing. And I think that coming across is important to me, because I tried just sitting and reading from the script and I got so fucking bored. I don't know how people do it. So I would 100% recommend this game. So there's a few niggles for me, but they are just niggles, and overall, as an overall package, it's still absolutely worth playing, especially with the new features and the rewind features, so you can actually do the expert mode without it being completely frustrating, which is nice. Yeah, no, I've really got nothing else to add. I'm just going in circles at this point, but I just love it so much. Again, might be biased, comments below. I really want someone who's not played this before to play it and let me know what they think from like a modern gamer's perspective that doesn't have that maybe retro nostalgia goggles. I'm still going, I need to stop talking. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.